Welcome to a tutorial on creating your environment in 3D. Now, I have my glowing text, but I also have my background 3D plane. So that's what I wanted to focus on today. It may look like one image here, but when I actually go into my 3D, it's consisted of two separate planes. And so I can edit each one individually to morph where it belongs and where it needs to go. So there's my overall. But I have down mesh and up mesh, so if I use this one, we now have the other plane in addition. Let's see if I rotate that for you so you can see it. So I have the plane going across and the plane going across the back. So one down here is my sand. So I have a picture of my sand. I love when stuff doesn't work. Background layer, navigate, click. So it's my sand. See, it's my sand. So there's my sand layer across the back, and then I have my background across the top. So how I made that, and I have the ocean in the background, doesn't matter what your two materials are, but at the end I grouped them so that it was one, and if I add any effects and lighting, it goes on to both, which is very important when you have your environment. I'm just going to delete this or hide it all together so we can start from scratch together. So I made a lovely rectangle. Okay, I went to my 3D and I created a postcard out of it. Now this one can be the back or the bottom, but you need to decide because the one that goes on the ground you need to rotate to be on the ground. And I always liked having it so it's tilted a little bit so that I can actually demonstrate where it is and you can kind of see everything on it. So there's my background. Obviously, I'm probably going to want it wider so it's not negative on each of these. So if I go to my coordinates, my x-axis is going to be the cross. I wanted to cover the whole across, and I can type in numbers until I find that happy balance that covers the whole background. And if I change it when I zoom and zoom out or like move the actual x, y, and z over time, I can always reset the x across. Okay. Now I need to create a new postcard. So back to my layers, new layer, lovely black, and click across. Go to my 3D postcard, create. And then this one I'm probably going to want to move back in space a little bit so we can actually see the two pieces together. And again, this is where you're going to resize. So go to your coordinates. And I'm going to need mine to be a lot wider and a little bit taller. And hello. What did I just do? There we go. Sorry, I just apparently switched layers nicely. Huh. There we go. I don't know what just happened. My apologies. Okay. Coordinates. So I'm just going to make this bigger so that we can work on it and see it all. And then move it in space a little bit so I can see the bottom plane. And then if I go back to my layers and I have the bottom plane, it obviously needs to be wider. So I'm going to make that the wider. And there are my two planes. Clearly no material on either, so we're going to start with material. What I did, and you're more than welcome to do this, is I kind of created two pieces of a picture. If you want to add a material and just make it a default material, you're more than welcome to. If you're in your 3D, right now I'm working on the ground. If I select that lovely cylinder, it gives me my materials. You can use a default material by all means and apply it to your work if it feels like applying. Wow, it's really not liking me today. Coordinates. What I did, and let's see if this likes me better, remove texture, so it has no texture altogether. And I made it so there's a ball with no texture, but then I loaded a texture, and I made a file, and I called it sand. So sand, and I applied that to my ground. If I was visible there, but not there. Interesting. Well, maybe mine's in front of it. Well, let's see. And then on the background here, again, I removed the texture. I made it a nice plain field, and then I loaded the background, which for me was the picture of the ocean. So scroll down until I find that picture of the ocean. And then I had my two planes. Then I figure out where I like each one to be. So you can kind of see my sand is kind of hidden. There's my sand layer. There we go. So if I want to bring it up a little bit so we can see it more clearly, open this layer and start reorganizing kind of the presence of each one if you'd like, so that you can see and work with both. There we go. It's all about order. The key, though, is at the very end, when you're happy with where everything's placed, and yes, you can change it once you merge it, but try and set it up first time to be correct. What you're going to do is select both of your layers and go to your 3D, merge 3D layers. Why this is important is that lighting needs to be the same. So now I just have one rectangle cubed for my 3D, and when I go to apply my lighting, and I add new lighting, it adds it to both elements, not just one. Okay? And again, obviously way too bright. I'm going to go with more of a beachy sunset color and start playing off those colors. Okay? So you need them to be unified in order to affect the lighting to both elements. That's kind of the gist of adding your two-planed environment. If you have a specific question, let me know and I will make a new tutorial.